up, and I said, nope.
So we are recording, just so everyone knows it's a live mic. Hey, listen, I'm really, again, you know, I'm excited with Nathan here, and this is just the beginning of him participating in these sessions. And I'm going to just say a couple of things, but I really want to turn it over to Nathan. You know, on Monday, we are going to be doing the final reading for the budget. It's passed. Staff has just done a fantastic job. There's been a lot of give and take on City Council. I'm very pleased that it's a unanimous vote for the passage, and I'm hoping it's going to be the same on Monday. We're doing a special session. And it will, once we pass that, it's in enough lead time where it'll become the fiscal budget of starting October 1. And in it, and it's in coordination with the Economic Development Corporation, there's kind of like four main goals: public safety, infrastructure, beautification, and redevelopment. And what I mean by public safety, and I think this group's heard us talk about our ISO rating, the insurance services office that goes as the party responsible that comes in and it audits the municipalities on their competency and capabilities across a variety. And the one of particular interest to us is fire, because that's besides flooding, fire is our biggest liability, and it's also the one that's the biggest expense for people. So you're going to see that in this budget we address 2 points to that audit, because we just barely maintained what I consider the highest rating we can get unless we convert it to a paid fire group, and we really do not want to do that. That's estimated anywhere from $1.5 million to $3-4 million of expense that we, the taxpayers, would have to do if we didn't have the volunteer fire department. So if anybody has any perception that the volunteer fire department doesn't play probably one of the most premier roles for us as a taxpayer, they are sorely mistaken. That group is just fantastic, and they're recognized as probably the number one volunteer fire department in the region, and there is no question they're number one, even with paid fire departments. They're just doing a great job. But
can I ask a quick question on that? Do you know what percentage nationwide volunteer fire departments, Nathan may know as well, volunteer fire departments versus paid fire departments? I grew up in New York, a pretty good sized town. It was all volunteer fire.
Not anymore. I mean, I don't know the numbers. I can just tell you the trend. Just like there used to be a number of private practices for doctors that, around serving, those have all been bought up and things along that line. The volunteer fire department corps across the nation, we're no exception in the region, has been trending downwards for the past, I'm just going to guess, and again, I don't hold me, 20 years. And there's a number of communities that have had to belly up. Maybe not a full conversion, but usually it starts out with 2, 3, 4 employees that has to happen, and it goes from there.
How about like Seabrook, Kemah, League City? Are they all volunteer?
Webster's not. I didn't think Seabrook was. You may know more.
I don't know about the national percentage or about our neighbors yet, but this is the first place I've been with a volunteer fire department, and I've worked for 4 different local governments. So I do think what the mayor said is correct, but I don't know about our neighbors. I haven't looked into their situation yet.
The 2 issues, and this budget addresses it. Just the person, I need to talk to you afterwards. Okay. So, the 2 issues that are real, and we got by a point, and Tom George and the whole group there did a great job. But the 2 issues are our water grid. No surprise, we've been looking to fix it. You've seen we've put in a lot of infrastructure. We put in 4 linear miles of stuff underneath and things along that line. But there are still water pressure issues in several areas of our city which does not allow for the minimum flow necessary to meet a criteria. And the amount of flow coming out of a fire hydrant is directly related to preservation of private property. Private property is what the insurance companies look at and what they have to replace. So it's all correlated. The other is we've had, and again, one of the things I'm glad is we've seen the resumption of the FEMA backing us for another year of lifting of homes. Another 19 homes is going to go up, which will bring it up to about 89, if I remember the discussion total. But with the lifting of homes, particularly 2-story homes that become 3-story, and with the size of the buildings like what the Methodist Professional Building, as well as the Moody's Neurological, it has put a increased need for a ladder truck here for the city. If you talk to Tom, if you talk to Rod, if you talk to Matt, they'll tell you that the buildings, if there was a significant fire that scare them the most, that keep them up at night, is the lifting of the houses. Some of the larger buildings have infrastructure that they can tie into and do things and fight it. The homes that have gone up are a real burden on them, and that means their lives are potentially at risk. So this budget addresses both those things. From a water standpoint, we're not only replacing the line and starting the work for replacing the Highway 3 line, which the Southwest Water Purification Plant is requiring us to do. But then we're also, the ones that I like for addressing the point is we're from Upper Bay Road to basically the Hilton. We're upgrade header, that is one of the main headers coming into the city. It is in some areas an 8-inch line, some areas it's a 10-inch line. It's in real sore need of repair. It leaks, and it has a lot of old 90s that we're taking out, and that will probably increase the amount of water flow through that portion by about 30-40% is our estimate, which means you'll see our whole water grid come up, whether it's at our fire hydrants or whether it's the residential homes. We're also doing another 4 miles of replacement. So, we may think that the water main breaks that show up like Old Faithful is an indication of a break. I'm here to tell you, no, the break has just gotten so bad that it actually can push through 8 feet of dirt to be able to geyser. It's already broken. We have leaks that go through there. So even though you don't see it, it's leaking. Like I said, we lose about 13% of our water, and that's because it's just needs to be intact. So from that standpoint, that infrastructure done. We have a capitalization plan that will allow Tom and Matt to place a PO for a fire truck pretty much right after October 1st. We're accruing for materials, so that's for that. It's going to take us about 3 years to build this. I've heard optimistically at best 2 years, more realistically 3, and it could be as long as 52 months is from what we've heard from the manufacturer. The good news is by placing a PO, we can lock the price and we can actually do some of the financing of it. The price of this fire truck just in the past year and a half has gone up almost $1 million. So, we're looking at a capitalization of $2.2 million over 3 years. So, but to public safety, making sure our guys aren't in harm's way, making sure we address the water pressure, to me, will make sure that we keep our insurance rating at a 2, an ISO rating. And the reason I'm really interested in that, because that's real money for taxpayers. Going from a level 2 to a poor rating of level 3 costs about $300,000 a year for each and every average home here. As your price goes up, obviously, you'll pay more, but it's like $300 a person or a property, residential property, and that to me is real money. We also have another $350,000. We're not done repairing the streets. We did almost 50 in the past year and a half, which you obviously see. There's going to be a lot of attention on curbs, fixing broken curbs, fixing the last couple of places where there's been failures to the street. It's about $350,000 there. On beautification, the two things that I'm really pleased about is we're gonna acquire 20 more medjool trees. We've focused on the center. We're now going to put 10 on the west and eastern entrances at the very first esplanades. And these are the trees that are good to 14 degrees for 5 days. So we think that, but more importantly, it'll also be put in our guarantee. We want to make sure anything we put in there doesn't die. That'll bring us to just under 50 trees, and the view is that's probably where we're going to stop with the medjools. It'll give a very nice entryway. We've got our center that's lit up by the NASA Area Management District, and there is going to be more emphasis now on what do we do in between and how do we do that, which is a little bit better freeze protection, because the guarantee will become extremely expensive if we put in 150 trees up there. We're going to stop at about 50. Okay. In redevelopment, I think if people have heard, we've got efforts to target 2 chronic areas that I think are really in need of redevelopment. The first I'll mention is the management of that group has made it very clear to us that they're going to fully renovate the Hilton as a destination hotel. They've told me in January they got 2 suites up at the top floor that are going to be completely done out by the competing companies, contractors to do it. So I think they're going to give an open house for people to come in and vote. Believe it or not, I think that's really neat. So watch for information there. But my understanding is that they're going to do the entire inside. They're going to redo the restaurant, buffet area, just open everything up, as well as the skin. The area that they have not really looked at is the exterior. And I know Bal Harbor is very interested about, that area, how they may be able to work with a Hilton in regards to putting in a first-rate marina, so that there's a destination for the marina folks. There's that whole area, the pool area. If you walk through that, it's in terrible shape. I don't think they've put in any money since before Ike, and it's in just really bad shape.
Terrible shape.
It's in terrible shape. The pool is in terrible. So we're looking at that this is definitively will be where we can use hotel motel tax money in order to be able to affect a redevelopment of an area and help them be able to have that as a destination hotel to the standards we were used to. And I know they've actually started to inquire about records and building permits and building drawings from back in the 1980s. So they're serious about this. And I'm serious that if we have one use of money for our hotel motel, having a really hotel at that location would just do us wonders. So that's going on. The other is, and I've mentioned this to Nathan, we've kicked off just prior to him being there, the target area around the waterfront that would incorporate the Sapphire, the Bay House, the professional building, the Lockheed building, and the vacant property afterwards. And I'd even like to go all the way up, through, which is the apartments.
Hess property.
The Hess property. But then if you take a left and go up There is the Victoria Lakes, if I remember. I'm having a, but they've named it a couple of different, well, surf courts, homes, but I mean, I'm looking at the commercial area, which may even incorporate our public works. So we may have to relocate and do things if we develop it to like what I think its potential, we'll want to do that. But that effort was is being kicked off by Sue Darcy, and if you remember back in the late '90s and things like that, we did. And I'm trying to follow that exact same path. Believe it or not, I was on council and mayor back at that time, 25 years ago. Roscoe and I were kind of reminiscing about that. But I want to follow that process for that area. I think that is one of the last bastions of just absolutely high value waterfront area that is not in its proper purpose. And I want to do what we did back then, and which realized this city hall as well as the whole area, which is the Griffin properties or the town center. And I want to look at that, at how we can do that on that waterfront. Sue Darcy and her group was integral in that process, and she has kicked off and has gotten the first draft of the marketing study that we've had with that. And that will be available in 2 weeks for this gentleman. And we will begin the process of putting together the citizens groups, the people, who back at that time were integral for the success, because this is not going to be easy. Even if I'm elected mayor another 2 terms, this is probably a process that's going to outlive my ability to have an impact here. And I want to make sure that we have the people and the processes in place that can have a sustainability over the next 10 years, because that's the kind of effort that it's going to take. And I think everybody wants those properties to be to find a higher value. That's where a lot of our crime is, a lot of our drugs, a lot of our things, and they're just obsolete buildings that have seen the better part of their lives 20 years ago. So that's the intention, and that's what's kicking off.
So when you say develop, it's inclusive of all the buildings there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if again, we'll let the process go, but if you look at the analogy, we used to have the Sackowitz building, the Sackowitz Mall, which had its caved in roof. We had those IBM buildings. We had a number of other NASA contractor buildings that were designed in a way which was just completely obsolete, and they had passed their useful life. And I think a lot of those buildings are the same. And I kind of had a giggle earlier, is that, I mean, if there's ever a real indication of a terrible use of property as the parking lot behind Lockheed, it's got to be the biggest acreage of blacktop of beautiful views with one picnic table, to allow people to enjoy it.
That's owned by one lady too, isn't there, something?
Yeah, I mean, it's just with a no trespassing sign.
And they do run you off if you're back there.
I did not know that,
Oh,
Barbara, but I mean, just
Barbara, what are you doing?
there's
yeah. Riding around.
but anyways,
Phil, so we don't own any of that property.
We do
that
not.
you're talking about now. So it would mean we would go in, make them an offer like Sapphire.
so
We do.
I'm hesitant to say it, but I'm going to say it. I've gone through and had Sue Darcy go back and look at the age of every one of those buildings. And every one of them is over 50 years, which allow us as part of a municipality to look at condemnation based off obsolete and things like that. Now, condemnation is an expensive thing. I'm not even sure that's the right way to go, but it is things where when you look at tools that you have, that's an effective criteria that enhances the powers of a municipality to affect change. And every one of those buildings is such. So I'm serious. We need to look at this, and we need to do it right. We need to be fair all the way around, but those buildings have kind of been in a static, non-improvement past their life. And I can't see it changing unless there's an effort to redo it.
No question, sir. I understand the Sapphire was for sale a few years ago and we didn't.
It sold here just a little
I
while
know,
ago.
but we didn't. The city did not look at it. Didn't
So
have a chance.
it-
was a sweetheart deal.
What I know that came up was as the insurance rates, and the insurance rates have just come up recently from the Federal Reserve, basically in the last 15 months. They had a variable financing deal on that property. And as interest rates went up, their cash flow got hit and a white knight had to come in. It was a private deal that had no public knowledge. I really wish we'd had something like that. Don't know if we could have done anything. I'm not even sure because I don't think doing it incremental is going to. I think that's some of the reasons why we've not been successful in the past. So we've kind of looked at those properties incrementally, whereas what we did with the Griffin properties, and we looked at a whole area and want to get developers and provided incentives to have the economic impact that we wanted, which means we finance her. And I think that's really the way we need to go in order to be successful. But yeah, that's what happened there. And the year before that, Bay House did the same thing. So we had two properties of real significant change hands. And
So it was just between a couple of developers or
it's very private.
very private?
And I wonder about that because they're all from New Jersey. I don't know what it is, but we've got the attention of New Jersey for these properties that seems to every 3 to 5 years change hands. And I want to break that
I
cycle.
had I used to have an office in 600 or the US Bay Boulevard building that used to be an office building there, 6-story building. And that was owned by people from the Northeast. And every summer they'd turn off the air conditioning. And it got so hot. And
Yeah,
it was
correct.
owned by somebody up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So
My
we're target market for them.
I've even looked at some things in regards to bringing the full bearing or the full strength of our municipality to bear here. There's a number of items that have been grandfathered in those properties, and I understand up until this state session up in Austin that we had the power to revoke grandfather. I'm not so sure we have that anymore. But in any event, there's a lot of things on these obsolete buildings that we can bring to bear that would add cost as well as how we can work with them to have them win. I mean, the people who own the Sakowitz building, the people who own the IBM, they really made out well in this deal because they got developers that came in and acquired the property and they got paid for it. It wasn't done under eminent domain or anything along. It was done by economic incentives.
Well,
So
just for background, Fred Griffin was developing County Square. He actually wanted to buy the Sapphire. He wanted to buy
Mhm.
Carafas property and that whole strip center to make his property whole.
Yeah.
But the prices that those people were asking for, once the news got out that Fred was developing it, went sky high.
Sky high,
Well above
correct.
the market value. And so he couldn't do that. But his intention was to go all the way to Upper Bay Road to Town Square, and then also to the Sapphire because of the waterfront.
Mhm.
But you can't overpay for property from a developer's standpoint.
You can't. So anyways, I didn't want to go too much. I didn't want to, but this budget is addressing those. And the last thing to say is on the tax rates, a lot of the infrastructure work we're doing is on the water and sewer fund. We've really targeted that as the means by which to get revenues. It's actually a better machine to get revenues to do the magnitude of the repairs that we're doing. The target there is has been primarily the large commercial consumers. The intent of this council was to protect residential consumers of water. They believe that they've actually been the ones paying their lion's share of the investment before. And the strategy we took on the property taxes was we wanted to be at the no new revenue level, which would say even though property values go up, your revenues would stay the same. And the only thing that's caused us to do things is we wanted to put the capitalization plan in for the fire truck, which is about $300,000 this year. So it's the net new revenue rate plus 300, which says your rate will go from slightly below 0.65 per $100 value to about, to about 3/4 cent or about a cent to just under 0.66. So it's a penny per $100 value, and that's really to be able to do the capitalization plan for the fire truck. You'll see in the Compass Rose, I put those out there, and if people do not agree with that, we have to go out and, we're doing certain things. If we don't want to get a ladder truck, it's something we can modify. I believe it's the right thing. I've asked everybody here. I think this is probably the third time people have heard me ask. If you disagree with that, let me know, because we can finance all of the things and the repairs of the infrastructure that I mentioned before without a tax increase. We cannot, if we want to get capitalized a fire truck, and I believe that's the right thing. And I'm really pleased that the council is united in that, because I think it's the right thing for us as citizens.
Hi. I'm really glad the mayor is able to talk about the big picture strategic things, because I'm just meeting people right now. So I started last week, and it's nice to be here in the room with you all as opposed to tuning in from 1,300 miles away. So I appreciate the chance to be here. It's been nice to meet many of you these first 2 weeks. Hope to meet the rest of you sometime soon. And it's kind of a joke, but I really am just spending these first couple of weeks meeting people. If you look at the charter, my biggest responsibility, other than implementing the council's policy priorities, is to manage the internal workings of City Hall, the people, the departments. And so I have to learn about those people in those departments, and they've been very generous with their time helping me out. It's been a good first couple of weeks. I've met with some groups from the city, met with others. I came from Michigan. I was managing a county up there as my most recent job. And when the mayor talks about these trees that can withstand 14 degrees for 5 days, it's like a heat wave for us where I'm used to. And so the climate's going to be something for me to get used to here. But glad to be here and appreciate the chance to get to work with all of you. One thing I wanted to mention today was it really stood out to me being new here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the flooding that we had last Friday. That weather was not really in the forecast. We had like a light chance of rain, and then just like that, we had about 5 inches in a couple hours. And so, yeah, exactly, exactly. And so, I wanted to let you know that when that event started, 2 of our pumps, the electricity had tripped out. And so for about 15 minutes, we were down a couple pumps. Public Works was able to reset those, and they did operate fine once they were reset, but we got a little bit of a slower start than we would have liked on getting the water out of the road. But realistically, what I've been told, that much rain, that short amount of time, we were going to have problems no matter what happened. So I really appreciated the response of our department. City Hall was closed at that time. It happened after hours here on Friday. And so I was able to see how we communicate with each other, how we communicate messages out to the city. And it was really, really good. And so I joked with the staff that my last week in Michigan, we had a tornado that hit in the county. And then my first week here, we had a really abnormal amount of rain. Fault. Yeah, I hope not. I hope it's not my fault. But seeing that event was good for me to get a little taste of emergency management here. I know that we always have to be prepared for that, but that one surprised us a little bit. We weren't expecting that day, so that was something that was a little different. But the Compass Rose is going to be hot off the presses here soon. There's a lot of stuff going on in October, so I hope you'll take a look at that. There are events. National Night Out starts off early in the month with the police department. We have a fire and EMS. October 3rd, yep. And there's a website you'll be able to register if you like there. We have an EMS and fire station open house on the 13th that I hope you'll attend. We have Halloween in the Park coming up on the 21st at David Brown Park, as well as some other things. And so I hope you'll check that out. A lot going on. I'm really excited to work on the things that the mayor talked about. But I really can't fast forward the orientation session for me. So I'm trying to do the mix of getting to know people, looking into these goals and plans. My first night here last Monday was the night that the council was really digging into the budget. And so I've got a lot of catching up to do on that. But the people here have just been wonderful so far. So I'll be happy to, if you'd like to know more about me or anything I can answer, I'll be happy to. Anything you'd like to discuss with me. Yes, ma'am.
I want to go back to Mayor telling us about acquiring new pumps to go along the Upper Bay Road. Has there been any action on that?
So the demonstration hasn't been put in place yet. It's right now they've been a little bit distracted with and I would have loved to have had that down towards yours rather than up around Prince William, which what Becky's referring to is that we have a vertical gasoline powered diesel, I believe it is actually, motor. If you heard, kind of Nathan describing things, he mentioned that things tripped out. Our biggest issue with flooding is power. And I've actually jokingly on our first breakfast said, if I get hit by a truck, remember one thing, once we get done paying for the ladder truck and that, come 2026, you'll have a lot of money in the water and sewer. Run 3-phase 440 power all the way up and down Upper Bay Road, and no, Synergy has not done the one to there. So I'm going to preempt your question, but the getting the power and the enough power to be able to do is our challenge. The pump that we're talking about would not require a generator, would not require all the linkages and control boards and different things like that. It would come on and it wouldn't need to put up 17 feet up in the air in certain people's property. So we're real excited about this. Just with the things on Paul's schedule and with the things here, it's been a challenge getting that demonstration in place. But what it would mean is it does something like 1,700 gallons per minute output. If we breach our berms, which are set at 6 feet, we did that after Tropical Storm Allison. There's no way you can beat Mother Nature with stuff like that. So once it breaches, it means that motor there will be sacrificed, and that's okay. It's a $5,000 motor. I mean, to me, having that level of protection flood-wise, that for a sacrifice of $5,000 each event, I'll do it every day and twice on Sunday. And if it demonstrates, we'll do that, and then at some point we'll be able to have the money to put in the power, and then we can put in some really big pumps, and that'll do some things.
Thank you. That's very good information to know. One of the big problems that we face, especially right along the water, our courts where we live, is because it seems like historically when we have a hurricane or a major flood like this, the water level in the lake is so high that it does no good to pump the water out into the lake.
Correct. It can.
And that also happened with this rain flood that
we
just had. Was up at
the other thing here that this and he knows this, it's scared the heck out of me. I've been wanting to bring attention to our bulkheads and things along that line. We had a bulkhead failure. I'm really worried about that. I'm really worried about the lines, the red valves underneath, which is what you're saying is that when the water gets up, the water comes back into. Those are not holding. We've got another. Yeah, but there's also what's called a red valve even further down, which is like a check valve. It's a balloon that goes through there, and those have to be clean. As people know, an engineer, those have to be cleaned out. We haven't done it. They're leaking like a sieve, and that's why when you see it at the cul-de-sac, when the water goes up, you see the water intrude in. It's the same thing at the Upper Bay Circle, but the problem is that if that happens and you're trying to pump out water, you've got that head that you got to go against already, and that just slows things down. What I was really pleased about this go around is Paul did a great job of lowering and getting all the drainage for the Lake Nassau down. And if we don't do that, then that just backs up everything else, because that's the drainage ditch or the drainage pond for all of Nassau Bay.
So we can put water in that lake then, is what you're saying, right?
Every storm sewer that's here, or not every, the majority of them actually drains into, like, for every inch of rain, we put 3 inches of headboard on Lake Nassau. So if we had 5 inches, we put 15 inches. So they drain it. There's pumps that we put in that help get that headboard down, and that management saves property, because even though a lot of the homes have now been up, it still keeps it down. So
Phil and Nathan, I thought it was outstanding that how fast a swift 911 message went out since the storm caught us all flat-footed, right? I watched KHOU News, 7 a.m. in the morning. They said, oh, a scattered shower, possibly, not likely. And then we get hit. And while the storm's going on, we get the swift 911, which was very helpful for me personally, because my wife was down in Galveston at work. I told her to stay there, right? Because I'm reading the message, and I know some people were staying up at McDonald's and waiting for the storm to pass, but it was really helpful to have that message. So whoever made that decision to get that out was great. And then, so going forward, when we have a situation, whatever it might be, active shooter, weather, hurricane, who's making the call when he swifts out?
Yeah, he's pointing at me, and I appreciate that.
his crew, his team.
But in reality, I was in a county office getting my vehicle registered when that storm hit. Our city hall was closed for the day, and I went over to get that done. And I looked down, and my phone started blowing up. This is something developing, and so it was really the staff here that made that call, because I was not in a position to do that. But you may have seen on social media, we put out that we'd opened a virtual EOC, which is basically the way that we all keep in touch with each other, all the directors, the department heads, myself. But staff really led that without me, and they know that we want to get those things out whenever we can, as quickly as we can, and so that's going to be a priority going forward.
So that technically was after hours, because that was late Friday afternoon.
It was.
So what about when we have a situation Saturday, Sunday? We still have, you on call, making a decision and getting that out.
Yeah, that's the benefit. It was really good practice, honestly, for that, for God forbid, a bigger event or a worse event, because I was able to see how we get connected quickly through our phone systems, our text messaging, and it was great. I was really, really proud of the way that staff responded. And then I had to get home that night because my computer wasn't with me, and again, I'm not used to driving and what we were dealing with that night. So that was a pretty crazy evening, but staff did a wonderful job through that. And I appreciate your comments on the alert, and it's something we're going to prioritize.
Barbara was first.
Those guys that got out down there and pumped out water and all that, do they get extra pay? Because that was a horrible job. Lynn and I walked down there, they've got on waders up to their knees, and the water just run over into those shoes. And I'm thinking, this is a horrible job, and they are working their behinds off.
But my assumption, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is part of the job is to be called out, but usually when they get called out, it's on overtime. But you may know specifically.
Yeah, it's they've been working really hard the last couple of weeks, and I'm so hesitant to say this, but I talked to Paul yesterday, and we haven't had a real big water leak this week, so that's been a nice thing. I'm sure that as soon as I walk out of this room, I'm going to get a text that we have one, because I just jinxed it. But yeah, Cheney, that's correct on staff on the overtime for hours worked above and beyond.
A call out, since they're on a 40-hour shift, paid hourly.
Yeah.
A call out would be done on overtime.
Yes, and we always have one public work employee that is on call, and so they do receive pay for just being on call, having that responsibility, and then if they were to be called out, there is that.
It's all done on
overtime.
overtime.
Minimum of 2 hours.
Yeah, correct.
So it's not only the money, it's,
Right.
does everybody appreciate these guys and what they do? I mean,
I think
I'm looking at these guys in the water.
wait till you see the compass rose as a focus thing to recognize them. But I mean, I believe a couple things is I think we've seen our money at work, looking at doing the infrastructure, and everybody knows it's our public works guys that are out there doing it. I think there's been probably more visibility, where a lot of times it was not visible, but the amount of work that these guys do is just mind-boggling. And I have to give Paul Lopez credit. He not only has his internal staff, he's got all these contractors. We've found the means by which to get the money to do this investment, but it all depends on executing. And we're talking about the very mundane of putting steel and concrete, in places, and to do it right. And I feel very proud. I feel I'm pretty strong on firm ground saying this, but you can see it in our city. You can see it. The roads are better, the curbs are better. You can see the fact that the water lines are being done. We've cut the main breaks in half, and we've got a plan to do the other half. You can see it, and that's all those guys. I'll give them completely the credit.
Yeah, I really appreciate, when I interviewed here, I spent a couple days and I spent some time with the public works staff, and they drove me around and showed me different things. And we talk a lot about a service-oriented mindset, and they have that. And so they're not surprised by those calls. It's part of their life. It's obviously very disruptive when that happens, but great to get to know them and to see how they react. And obviously the role that they play for this city in particular is very, very important.
That's the problem, is that they're so well trained and cross-trained that we lose them to other cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Nathan, on the new lines being put in, is there not technology there that we can put sensors on, kind of like a train tracks across the US? They have master control of what's happening in all the tracks. Here we're underground, but do we not have sensors? I'm thinking about what Phil said, is that, we have leaks going on right now that we are undetected unless they become a geyser, right? That's what the mayor said.
We have.
And so don't we have any, like they have at the beach, you have going over the sand looking for a watch or a ring?
No, the technology, because now you're talking my realm of steel and pipe, okay? These pipes aren't empty. So it's like you can bore a scope down there and see a sanitary sewer thing or a stormwater where you can go. These have pressure on them and stuff like that. What there are, and I know we're no exception, there are responsibilities for potable water systems. That means you have to have a certain pressure under a certain size line. Although don't have it as part of a measurement of what comes into the system, it's a percentage loss. And once you have a certain delta P drop, it says that you can get contaminants, bacteria, or whatever into your potable water, and you lose that status, and it's all self-reporting. And I believe we have that here. And if I'm sure Paul's listening, he would tell you the same. That's why we know we have 13% water loss.
So I hope that the city manager gets a high-rise, high-water vehicle
We have one.
for him.
We have one. We have one. It's the old, Humvee, if I remember.
That he can take home.
It's part of the EOC. I'm laughing. I don't know. I'm sure it is, but yeah. There's also, I haven't seen it, but there used to be also like that troop carrier that we used to have, that had the big wheels. So that was done for rescue situations. Any other questions?
Just on fire trucks, when we buy a new fire truck, is it do we have limited options when we shop for these?
Oh no, Tom will tell you, man, you can get all sorts of bells and whistles and this and that and blah, 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 blah. So that's why, we've charged them to be able to put there that they need to design. They don't want all the bells and whistles. Those guys are very frugal, and they actually get what is necessary, not just what can be.
So are there multiple manufacturer choices? Is it a competitive market, or is it government that, this is the $2 million toilet seat?
It's not completely like a toilet seat, because it's a ladder truck, and I believe they're going to 100. They want 100-foot extension to the ladder truck. So it's a pretty sophisticated piece of equipment, and it's a pumper too. So from that standpoint, it's It's not quite as bad as the what you're saying, but I and Tom can correct me here. Again, I'm talking not in a full knowledge of but I think there's only 2, which means they're not really. You need a third to really get rivalrous. So they have pricing authority. Let me say it that way. I have 2 other things that I want to mention because I don't want the effort that Jim's doing for October 21st, the paddle boat event that's in support of the military men and women who are suffering with PTSD. And that's kicking off. The city's helping support that. And Jim, thanks for doing that. That's a real important thing. And the fall sweep. I think it's only one day. I think last year they tried doing it 2 days, and I think it wore everybody out. I still tell the garden club and the Parks and Recreation group, however many plants they need, times it by 2, because we always need more. I'm really pleased with the way the city looks from this year versus these subsequent years. The garden club and the coordination there put in plants that even though we had this drought and the things here, they really lasted the test of time. You can still see, quite a bit of beautification that was done from last year, and it looks really good. So my understanding is they're doing more to augment than just fundamental planning, which is where we want to be. So. Understand it's arriving. I don't know. I'm jumping in here, and I shouldn't do that.
No,
I shouldn't do that.
You probably have more of an update than I do.
Middle of October is when it's coming. They're going to actually demolish. The demo's happening, and it should be in before Thanksgiving.
That's supposed to happen in August.
Yes. Actually, my remembrance originally that was the first delay date was August. It was supposed to have been in June or July. For the summertime, if I remember. I could be mistaken, but it got postponed to August, and August became September. Now it's October to be put in there, and that's part of just supply chain stuff we've been dealing with.
Donna wants to be the first one down the slide, right?
I mean, I'll say this is to me that's going to really change that park. That is some really nice equipment that's been selected. Everybody from Swan Lagoon that has communicated to me have seen the sketches, seen the things, and it's just a beautiful playground. And there's ADA. I'm really pleased because one of my objective is to project access for our recreational things. Even the front door here we're getting done. It was not ADA compliant. It was just something that has not been on our radar screen as a city, and that park in particularly one area will have ADA access, including the sidewalks to get there. So, real pleased with that.
Just talking about late to arrival. Roscoe and I started talking about this paddle event like 14 years ago. But it was a long time ago. Pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Wow.
So.
Trying to get it off the ground.
And that's October
21st.
21st. Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It'll be early in the morning. We'll paddle from the Hilton around the city of Nassau Bay. Nassau Bay is actually a peninsula city. We'll end up at the other side of the city. There's a marina called the Nassau Bay Yacht Club. There's a president over there. Actually, Nassau Bay is the gateway going up the creek. The last spot up the creek is David Braun Park. The first spot going up the creek. And there's a little ramp there.
There's been some information that has said it was going to be October 14th, but I want everyone to hear it is October 21st. October 21st, October 21st, October 21st.
I didn't want to put it in competition with the air show, which is October 21st.
Yeah. So.
I mean, 14th. There
Oh,
you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Minor topic, I'm wondering about the painting on the curb, how it's coming along, because I have started receiving in the mail
Yeah.
commercial
So
There are two different ones that are sending around saying that they're doing it, but
That's-
we're not waiting on.
what I understand with that is that gentleman did not apply and step in here if I, did not apply for a permit in order to be able to go door to door and be a solicitor.
Right.
The police, and I'll give Brian Brown credit. He was the one who indicated it first, and we had the police guy has no interest in getting a license and is no longer going around doing that.
Okay.
I also know in Fall Sweep, I believe there's going to be about 100 CCISD high school kids that are going to be targeted to be the resource to like target big swaths of areas of things in order to be able to get those done free of charge. It's a very labor intensive, and I got to give Chase Waterwall a shout out here. He's been doing them with a group of about 2 or 3 people that they're doing religiously, but at 102 or 111 heat index, 120 heat index, they've kept it up. They've just been slow.
I'm not in.
Yeah.
I'm
But I
not
believe
in a hurry to get it
but I
done.
believe you're
just
gonna
wanted
see-
to know you were aware.
they are, and he's the police.
So in this case, this gentleman with this business should be coming to the city and buying a solicitation permit.
Correct.
Yeah.
What does that cost?
$100.
And I believe it's $100. I'll have to verify, but it's not a
Maybe
hard
as low as
process.
50, but I
Yeah.
think it's $100.
There's some
And so
paperwork
for-
involved.
For residents like myself, now that I'm retired, I'm home more, I get solicited fairly often.
Mhm.
And, it's like,
If you want to put a stop to things, and I apologize for interrupting, but if you just ask the solicitor, can I see your permit from the city of Nassau Bay? And if they say, I don't have one, you can make a judgment of whether you want to continue or not.
And
so
if-
what would I call into the non-emergency line and talk to Tiffany here and say,
Or Robert.
Yeah.
or Robert?
Yeah, either one would be fine, and if someone can't show you their permit or doesn't have a permit, they really shouldn't be doing that. And so like the mayor reported last week, we'll ask someone to go approach them and
Yep.
and
So
deal
I've
with that
had just
situation.
recently, in addition to the curb repair, 2 different tree services, right, guys
Mhm.
walking. One was very suspicious because he was a younger guy, didn't care, he wasn't carrying anything, didn't even have a business card, said came up, rang the bell, said he wanted to talk about the trees, but look, I don't know if he's casing the house or the
Agreed.
property. So,
I mean, the typical things that we have is power washers, landscapers,
Yeah.
and tree services. And whenever there's a storm or something like that, the roofers, right? And in my mind, having the things that has the precedence that we keep up with this is important in case we end in an arm wrestle down the road. Precedence is real important here.
Phil, how about the kids with cookies and candy? The youth?
I'd never see them around.
Well, no. But
So
are they
I
required to have a permit, or is
you
does
you
the
know,
whole
I
organization get a
I
permit?
believe that's so. And I believe there was one time in the history where somebody was in the big park and they were told they needed to do so because it was a health department thing. I think we got to really look at that because I think there should be a buy for any budding entrepreneur under the age of 18 should not have to worry about the strong arm of the municipality of Nassau Bay.
Lemonade stand law, isn't there something that I feel like maybe I just imagined?
I don't know. All I know is I can't recall anything that you say of that. but-
There are stories around social media of lemonade stands being shut down, and
But I think there's like some protection.
yeah,
There
and
is.
so I'll take a look at our ordinance and how it's written. I don't know if there are exemptions to it, but we'll find out. Yeah,
You know, but there's got to be a way to carve out an exception.
yeah.
You said that the process for getting that solicitation permit is not very hard.
There's an application.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is entailed people as far as, do we do any checking on them or do we just get information on them?
I believe if they complete the application fully, I'm not sure if we go further than that, but I can find out.
Nathan,
I-
do they have to be
I thought they had to
insured
give a
and bonded?
driver's
Usually there's
license,
requirements
and then
for
there's
that,
a
yeah.
background just from the
Yep.
police real quick.
Did you hear
Is
that?
what I understand. I believe. How well we do that, I can't tell you, but I mean, yeah. A lot of times it just takes the police just to say, hey, have you gotten the things here? And if they're, it's what I call my good neighbor policy. They go to another neighborhood that doesn't do that. And they just go.
And if they have to be insured and bonded, that's gonna knock 90% of them out.
Yeah.
And, I'm all in favor
99.
of giving Girl Scouts a pass. I actually like it when they used to come by, they stopped and said if they were doing it online. But I
Boy
always,
Scouts,
and the Boy
Yeah.
Scouts too.
The Scouts.
the Scouts.
That's right.
I don't know, those Girl Scouts are cleaning up. so.
They do. Gosh, they do. Any other questions? Any other comments? We're coming up on 10 o'clock. The only other thing, I have two other ones just to maybe to end. I've gotten a number of people calling me. I think I've mentioned this. We've got a little bit of a bird problem down at the big park. We've got quite a number of pigeons, quite a number of what I call the turkey ducks, the Peking ducks, whatever you want to call them. I've gotten the confirmation that both those are not protected under us being a bird sanctuary. They are invasive pests defined under the law of the state. My big concern is the pigeons. We have easily over 300, pigeons, and they're roosting in the pavilion. I don't mean to be so graphic. I've had to deal with these, pigeons before. Their excrement is very acidic. They will tear up that pavilion. We're going to need to do something with the breath of the birds down there. It's
ADBB guns with
you know,
7-year-old.
I believe let's take them. There's people who say there's pigeon heaven or pigeon paradise. So I'll just say the intent is to take them to pigeon paradise. Okay, so
Why don't we get a falconer club
You
started?
know?
It
it may scare the ducks away too.
With our falcons.
I think it was 20 years ago when you were mayor, we had a huge duck problem.
We
at
did.
the time, and
We did.
We brought professionals in. Is that how we solved that?
Yes, exactly. We relocated them to duck paradise.
I was gonna say.
Yes.
It's exactly what we did,
Be careful what you ask.
Yes.
right? Duck paradise.
That's right.
But I think everybody sees it, and it's getting bad. And some of that may be just people enjoying it and feeding and stuff like that. But it's getting bad, and I'm really worried about the pavilion.
When you mentioned it at the last coffee, you were looking for suggestions of ways to handle the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I went online and looked, and there's a whole slew of suggestions.
There's some Barbara, you were the one who sent me to, or somebody did with the ultrasonic, but
Strips of nails that they put up there.
Yeah.
On top of the.
I'm worried that they're underneath. I mean, it's going to be.
Underneath.
They're both. They've been all around. They go all the way around. If it's raining, they're underneath. They go there.
But they do have quite.
They are everywhere, and my belief is they're kind of geometric in population, just like rats. If we don't take care of this, it's
But
going to
it's
be
like
bad.
any issue with that, right? There's no like really good natural predators for them here that would take care of that. So it
Hawks,
has to be-
believe it or not, hawks will
We
do
have
that.
enough of them to
But
really-
it's also for ducks. It's also for chickadees, and, small dogs. I have, believe it or not, I saw one that got one of our squirrels, in the front yard.
Oh,
Yep. So, but I'm hesitant to do something like that because they're non-selective. We can be
Yeah,
non.
No, I don't mean bring them in. I
What
just
I've-
mean
what
in
I've
any
heard is-
situation where you don't have
What I've
them.
heard is the best way is through hormone, where they actually, set up to encourage a specific type of bird through a hormone that attracts them, and that way you can cage them up and then paradise.
We could borrow an alligator from Louisiana.
We got some. I hate to say it, but I got a picture just outside the Hilton, and it looked like a 10-foot alligator gar getting consumed by a 10-foot alligator. Everyone wants to see a picture, and it's right there where they're doing the construction for those condos. I mean, it was pretty impressive. So
Don't get too surprised, you're going to see them in your canal.
I know. Yeah.
In the canal.
So
I'm rethinking this whole thing.
you know, he had wolves up there. You know,
Yeah.
packs of wolves.
So as Nathan now knows, Nassau Bay is a bird sanctuary. And we do have a few signs that say Nassau Bay is a bird
Yeah.
sanctuary. Val Harbor has one, we have one, I think, in front of David Braun Park. Came up at Megan's meeting last night at the HI having, putting more signs out. And because at the main entrances, the main arteries into Nassau Bay Drive, Point Lookout, Upper Bay, there are no Nassau Bay.
There used to be birding trail signs too. Was there? You know, one or two.
It used to say Nassau Bay is a bird sanctuary. I
Yeah.
remember from my.
But send that into Paul, because we've been pushing people to do stuff, because I don't think that's a homeowners association financial responsibility. I believe signage and stuff like that for,
Yeah,
and
we
it,
brought it up last night, and we were talking about it a little, about.
it's ours. It's really the city.
Because when I drive into Val Harbor and I see the sign, Nassau Bay Bird Sanctuary, and I stop and took a photo of it, I really feel good, right? It's a good reminder. Wow, this is a pretty neat, unique community, Nassau Bay, that's on the water bird sanctuary.
Things like, I know the garden club is doing a natural pollinator garden in order to be able to do things along that line, and us being a bird sanctuary, birding trail is helpful in regards to getting the grants to do things like that.
And I
So
think it's a big
I support it.
positive.
It's cheap.
What we're trying to bring, Ross was trying to bring butterflies over too, wasn't it? That's
Yeah, that fell through with the zoo. They were gonna do the pollinator pathway from NASA all the way to the peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it laid out for 5 gardens along Upper Bay Road. And unfortunately, COVID got in the way, and then I don't know if they dropped the program. I mean, they've been very successful all the way up to NASA, and they wanted to extend it.
Yeah.
But
COVID.
but since I'm not in that program anymore, I'll defer to them to continue.
Yeah.
I just got another question about signage. There's a ramp, a little kayak ramp in David Braun Park, and it says, "Do not fish off the dock." And then I actually asked the cop one time about it, and it said, "That's not a legal sign. We can't enforce that sign because it doesn't say anything about a city code there. You gotta have a city code on that sign to make it legal."
Just a polite request.
No, not a.
Well, but I'm wondering if it's the same thing, and maybe that's why all along Upper Bay Road on some of the boardwalk, you know, there's a lot of people. I've noticed that the encroachment from the parking lot, from the apartments down walk and down in front of people's thing. And the issue there is people are very unsanitary. They'll leave fish cuttings, they'll leave shrimp, you know, and it's yeah. And I'm sure it's the same thing.
But there's no, it says, no fishing off the dock.
Call us, because it may be the same thing.
It has no city code on it.
Yep.
Well, I'll say this, when I've approached that ramp with my kayak, a couple of people will scatter and pretend like they weren't there.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
And when I
right?
paddle back, they'll be waiting, I guess. And so I don't have any complaints at the moment, but.
Getting out of that water, they don't see that slippery. Anyway,
So do you launch your kayak there?
I have, yeah.
And how do you find the easeability of getting in and getting out?
Easier than the rocks or, I mean, it's a good, for me, it's good.
Because it's on a tide, right? So
It is,
the
but
tide-
there's also a little climb ladder down the side, so it's good, it's a good little, it's fun, yeah.
Not the safest climb ladder I've ever seen.
No, but better than a slippery rock.
It is.
You know, up the creek, up Clear Creek, I know you and James Abbey went up to
did.
the Clear, League City when they did it. So I went up to the following week when they had that,
Mhm.
and saw how they were doing that stuff. I went to actually a paddling event and they still have sloppy.
So I'll that's a good, I've debated whether to bring that up, but I mean, there's been 4 workshops, and what he's talking about is League City has put forward a master plan to develop a lot of the Clear Creek waterway as to enhance the access and the facilities for that waterway. We are the entrance to that waterway. We, if you look around our big park and all the way down, we border that. That is the county and Galveston County. And that is property we annexed back in, 1999, whatever. And so whatever they do, we have a major, impact there as to whether we want to support it or not. And I drawn concerns, so you see where I'm kind of leaning, but I don't want to be prescriptive. But they're talking about quadrupling or quintupling the amount of boat activity that's coming up the creek, that they provide facilities and things like that. There's a lot of activity to provide for kayaking and things, and they also want to this is what I'm hearing is the boat side of it, or the water side, is about $3 million, but they've got a whole other thing of these park areas as you go up north of, not north, I guess, whatever, west, yeah, west. That they have a number of trails that they want to put through there to create, for their parks, that it's a $40 million project. What I said is, I've been to 2 of the 4 workshops. The citizenry that came were very predominantly against it. There were a lot of people who were talking about the safety, the things, I mentioned here. But, that's a big city, and that certainly wasn't representative of the voters. So I don't know. It's not, they're doing a lot through grants. They're doing a lot through some funding of the city. Right now, my understanding is it's not funded. All they've done is do the master plan. And I've made it a point that I need to talk to the League City mayor and find out, because there's jurisdictional control over that waterway that we have on the Harris County side we control.
So Phil, is it a separate topic about the increased water flow that would come, like Cow Bayou, your house?
I don't think
my
dredging,
house?
I asked that. That was my very first question. And just to put that to bed, I was very pleased that there was no dredging, no water flow. This is all recreational activities. So they're looking at putting in, concrete launches. They're talking about a number of different things to, benches, camp areas, drinking water, all the different things like that at very precise locations to facilitate getting in, getting out, and going all the way into their park area from Clear Lake.
And building floating docks over there.
Floating docks, whole range of things.
Is this aimed at non-motor, use, we're talking kayaks, and so they're not really
No.
managing.
There's no question the non-motor aspect of it is one they want to do. But of all things that came under the most criticism is there's more alligators. If you think we have alligators, you go up to where there's less salinity, and it's even more so that there's people going, we've already got a safety issue for swimmers and stuff like that with boats. We're gonna put even more out in harm's way, was the comment I heard over and over and over again up there.
So this is the Dudley Park side, or is this further up around the old Galveston County Park?
It starts in Nassau Bay, actually, but you on the other side of 270, and there's streets going.
Correct, all the way up, and there's
270 at the upper West Area Boulevard of 518 is actually where the last Griffith Park is.
Griffith Park, and then there's Emeritus Park or something like
Heritage
that.
Park.
There's
There's
a
a
number.
Waterfall
There's
Park.
like 4 parks that are targeted.
Yeah, Challenger Park was closed because of the Rio runoff boat ramp started.
Yeah.
So there's that, and
That's one of the guys said is like, are you really sure you want to
so
do
from
this?
Friendswood at Rio down the creek, along Forest Bend Park, and
Yeah.
down to Challenger Park, that's all contaminated underlay.
Yeah, so
There's that, but then again with the boating, where's the dredging? Because I've been up and down my whole
I'm
life.
really, I mean, unless there's something going, I'm gonna tell, and I don't care if people, there's gonna be a no downstream flood impact to any type of increased flow of water coming down our waterways. To protect our people. We're already lifting 90 homes as we go through this. We don't even need a larger one.
When I talked to the consultants at that event, they were just concerned about the trails. And
They were.
I asked him about the dredging. He said, that's a whole different issue, because
Yeah.
they're also gonna dredge to make more water, reservoirs up the creek. That's
Yeah.
another project.
So that's not really dredging. They're putting drainage ponds in, so was what I understood. But my understanding, because I asked everybody multiple times, is dredging any aspect of this? And they said no.
They're gonna have reservoirs.
Yep, so they may increase retention, which I'm happy,
Yes, oh, absolutely.
have at it.
Absolutely.
But if there's anything that says we want to move more water to Clear Lake, I got a problem.
No, I think what I was saying, they're trying to put areas there where retaining the water when it started coming down. Reduce the.
Yeah, that I'm
Yeah.
retention ponds, and that's what they're supposedly Harris County and Houston for all development and any type of solutions. And I know you've been involved, Roscoe, but I mean the anything that would debottleneck, water coming from up above down here, we must, as part of the permitting to allow that activity to take care, must have a no rise impact for our community.
When I was at the end of that meeting, I sat there and talked to a couple of gals, and we were talking about, we actually mentioned this paddling that we're doing, and they knew about it because you guys were there.
Yeah,
And
correct.
I talked to the gals who were there, and they were saying, had the same concern that lived on the creek about the speeding boats.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big issue.
It's a
All
big
around.
issue. I mean, I could see 4 times as many boats coming around our hairpin turn.
Oh, yeah.
I got some real issues.
What kind of depth of water are we talking about? I have no.
It varies along the creek.
7 feet.
Oh, it is?
It
Right.
varies,
It's on
yeah.
Rock Park at 7 feet.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
It varies. I mean, you'd be,
It's on the tide. I
Yeah.
kayak all the way back in a kayak, and it gets so shallow, I had to stop kayaking, and it's
Yeah.
based on the tide. And so I don't know.
and how much water, how much rain, because that's the drainage for all that up north.
I don't know how they would be able to increase boat traffic
I don't
without doing some dredging.
You
Yeah.
can take a boat up there.
I mean, I have no jurisdiction on the Galveston side of the creek. We have all jurisdiction is in the city of Nassau Bay on the Harris County side.
Park meeting.
Phil, have you looked at the Webster side of the Great Wolf Park? When I initially saw the charts of Great Wolf Park, they were putting in some kind of a marina there.
That's what I understood too. I haven't been over there, Glenn, just honestly.
It looks like there's development occurring in the wetlands, right where the creek is, where the water is.
It's real close. It's real
Yeah.
close. But there are.
Has to be, right?
But the charts actually show the marina being put in there.
My understanding is they want a
Which would
marina.
likely imply dredging.
It would have to have dredging.
There is a marina though in a condominiums going on at I-45, right where there used to be a restaurant. There's a Mexican restaurant right there in the corner of the big city side. So they're developing a marina right there also by I-45 on Clear Creek.
Yeah.
Along with the condos that are going in.
Yeah, that's doing that.
All right.
I believe so.
Oh, he's very aggressive. Wow.
Mhm.
Woo.
So it's 10:15. Any other? That's basically all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Sorry. Got
Yeah,
it.
that was good. Learned a lot.